السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد. The Quran is replete with stories, but the Quran is not a storybook. At various junctures in the Quran, Allah makes mention of the story of a Nabi or of a nation that has passed. But yet the Quran is not a storybook, because the purpose of a storybook is to tell the story. And the purpose of the Quran is to highlight the lesson behind the story. That's why you will notice in the Quran, Allah does not talk about incidents in chronological order. Allah doesn't start at the start of the story and end at the end of the story. Take the example of the story of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala in the first juz does not talk about the birth of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. In the first juz, Allah is talking about an incident that happened much later between Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and the Banu Israel. It's only in the 20th juz that Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala talks about the birth of Musa alayhi salam. So there isn't sequence, there isn't chronological order, because that's not the purpose, that's not the objective of the Quran. But there's one exception. And that exception is Surah Yusuf. Surah Yusuf, Allah starts from the beginning of the story at the beginning of the surah and ends at the end of the story at the end of the surah. There's sequence and there's chronological order. And Allah Himself refers to it as Ahsan al-Qasas, the best of stories. In the beginning of Surah Yusuf, Allah refers to it as Ahsan al-Qasas. And at the end, in the very last ayah, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says, لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصِهِمْ عِبْرَةٌ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. That in the stories of these Anbiya alayhimu salatu wassalam, or in the stories that the Quran narrates, there is lesson for the people of intelligence and intellect. So I want to share with you tonight and in the coming nights a few reflections. The story of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam we know. But the lessons, because Allah says it's the intelligent people who take lesson from these stories. The not so intelligent people are the ones who worry about unnecessary detail. I always mention when I talk about Surah Yusuf that one of our teachers, when he was teaching us the Tafseer of Surah Yusuf, he said, people will learn and they'll sit for the Tafseer of the entire Surah Yusuf. And in the end, they'll only have one question. And what is that question? Did Yusuf alayhi salam marry Zulaykha or not? So we grew up, reading all these story books and these novels and watching all these movies. So in everything, we only want to find the romantic angle. If that was relevant and important, Allah would have made mention of it. Some Mufassirin, as a side note, have said, yes, that, there are some reports that suggest that Zulaykha did repent and reform and her husband had passed on and she married Yusuf alayhi salam. Others say there's no proof to show that it's true. But that's not at the core of the story. And we normally have this tendency, when something is put before us, rather than trying to ascertain what's the core message, we want to see what is the juicy detail, even though that detail is somewhat irrelevant and not important. So the first reflection I want to make is when Yusuf alayhi salam comes to his father and narrates his dream to his father, and it's a very noble dream. It's a dream that projects greatness for Yusuf alayhi salam. His father tells him one thing, لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك. Do not narrate your dream to your brothers. In this age of social media, where we have become obsessed with wanting to flaunt every bounty which Allah has given us, there is great reflection in this. Here, the father Yaqub alayhi salam, this is the house of Nubuwah. This is no ordinary house. This is no ordinary Muslim house. This is a house of Nubuwah. Yaqub alayhi salam is a Nabi. His father Ishaq alayhi salam is a Nabi. His grandfather Ibrahim alayhi salam is a Nabi. And then his son Yusuf alayhi salam is also going to become a Nabi. Yet he's saying, لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك. Don't tell your brothers, because jealousy is a reality even between brothers. Now you know what's the problem with us? We're ready to suspect someone of jealousy and to accuse someone of jealousy but we're not ready to take precaution to prevent that person from becoming jealous of us. So anything goes wrong, yeah, there's too much hasad, Moulana, too much hasad, too much najar. But what precaution are you taking? I always give this example. I say, Allah has given you some wealth, you go for holiday. Now you give running commentary on your WhatsApp status, your wife is giving running commentary on her Instagram stories. One day you scuba diving, the next day you skydiving, the next day you're in a hot air balloon. And the man who's seeing your WhatsApp is a man who can't pay his rent. Then you say, Hassan, you're provoking it. Now, there are bounties of Allah that you must enjoy. Even your brothers, your sisters, I would say even your parents and your children don't need to know. We just need to zip our tongues and zip our thumbs. We have this itch. Allah blesses me with one thing. I need to share, I need to divulge, I need to announce, I need to amplify. Everyone must know. Why? Why? The less people know about the bounties that you are enjoying, the less complicated your life. Here a Nabi is telling his son that don't tell your brothers. لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك. They already somewhat jealous of you because they know I have a greater affection for you. They find out you saw this dream, problems for you. Keep the bounties that Allah has privileged you with to yourself. Now see, if Allah has blessed you with the second wife, I'm not saying don't tell the first wife. Then you say, I'm keeping it, the bounty of Allah to myself. The other reflection, right? They come, and we know the story, they say to Yaqub alayhi salam that let Yusuf alayhi salam come with us and play and we guarantee you nothing will happen, etc., etc. And then they go and they come back and now Dad, we left him for a moment, this is a moment, and the wolf came and look at his clothes and see the blood. And so what does he say in the words of the Quran? He doesn't believe them. بل سولت لكم نفس بل سولت أنفسكم أمرا. You guys have made the story up. He tells them. Now just think for a moment, right? Your son is missing. Your son is missing. This is not one small mishap that your car got scratched. And now your son is saying, but Dad, it wasn't me. I parked by the masjid and I read all 20 rakats Taraweeh and I came out and then I saw and I don't know, somebody there. No. This is not a car that got scratched. This is a whole child that's gone. A child with a bright future. A child who was the favorite child of Yaqub alayhi salam. Now what would you have done if your sons were responsible for the disappearance of one of your children? Yaqub alayhi salam didn't kick his sons out of the house. Why? Because he understood that whilst they are in my house, they could do this. If I throw them out, they will be even worse to the point that maybe they lose their iman. That's the responsibility of a parent. Now ask yourself, right? Most of you sitting here are parents. When your son disappoints you, you don't want to see him for that day at least. You don't want to see him for that week. Because he's hurt you. And what he did? Maybe he spoke back to you, or maybe he scratched your car, or maybe he didn't do something you told him to do. But imagine this man, Yaqub alayhi salam, every day he must look at the faces of those boys who he brought up for the reason that his Yusuf is disappeared and missing. It was hard for him. But he said, I will take that burden upon me to preserve the iman of these boys. That's what it means to be a parent. You don't write off your children. You don't write off your students. It's easy to write off. I don't want to see you out of my house. Nimak haram, and you this and you that. It's easy to do that. It's easy to get emotional. But this is a lesson that we learn from the story of Yaqub alayhi salam. A third reflection, in terms of the initial part of the story, certain tendencies have been there from ever before and will be there until ever after. No matter which age or which era or which zamana you live in. So materialism, wanting to make a quick buck, where people are more worried about money than they're worried about humanity. Think about it, right? These traders, they come past the well, they drop a bucket to pull out water, and they pull up handsome Yusuf. قال يا بشرى هذا غلام. So why were they happy? Why were they happy? If you find a young boy lost on the street corner, what's the humane thing to do? What's your name, right? Who's your father? If you lost here, you can't be from far away. Must be somewhere nearby your parents are. Yet, it doesn't cross their minds that, hey, how did this young boy end up at the bottom of the well? Something must have happened. He can't be from too far away. Let's find out who he is, who's his father. Let's try and get him back to his father. No. Hada ghulam. He is handsome. We sell him, we're making money. Quick buck. Materialism. And you see the same tendency in the world today. Wars are being fought, women are being widowed, children are being orphaned, resources are being plundered, countries are being destroyed just because a small group of people want to make a quick buck. It's an eternal theme. From the time of Adam alayhi salam up till the day of Qiyamah, there will be those for whom money is more important than life, for whom money is more important than honor, for whom money is more important than humanity. They'll sell their mothers, they'll sell their souls to make a quick buck. Now we mustn't only say them, because the nature of money is such, when the love of money enters your heart, you can become them very quickly. Where you'll throw your morals and your values and your principles out the window. You'll find every justification and every explanation for why you did what you did. But in reality, deep down in your heart, you know, your motivation was money. They sold Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. A fourth reflection, when Zulaykha now wants to tempt Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam with zina, he says, Innahu Rabbi ahsana mathwai. There's a lot of academic discussion that the word Rabbi, when he says my Rabb, is it in the ultimate sense, meaning my Allah, or Rabbi meaning my mentor, my father. Either way. The point is this, that at the time of temptation, he remembered Allah. I say this to parents, I say this to teachers. You can't make nigrani of your child, you can't supervise your child for the rest of their life. Nowadays, even if your child is in your house, in the room, they got the whole world in their palms. What you can do is play your part in ensuring that you give your child or your student or your musalli a strong sense of what it means to be Muslim, a strong Muslim identity, so that wherever life takes them, whatever temptation will come across, they will think of Allah. Even if they falter, even if they slip, even if they err, even if they make a mistake, but ultimately it will kick in. That moral compass will kick in. I'm Muslim. I have to stand before Allah one day. I will have to answer before Allah. Let me make tawbah. Let me repent. Let me repent. This is not right. Even if I'm wrong, I'm involved in it, there will be some conscience. There will be some guilt. There will be something pricking at them. That's the greatest gift in today's age of zihni irtidad, of intellectual apostasy, where you make your child a solid Muslim in terms of identity. Then they stand a chance, because wherever they go, whatever life throws at them, there is that strong possibility they'll say, wait, hold on, Allah is watching. And that is what Yaqub alayhi salam did with Yusuf alayhi salam. He was far away from him, but he said, Innahu Rabbi ahsana mathwai. Now, here's another thing. Shaykh al-Islam Mufti Taqi has written, it's an amazing point. He says, when Zulaykha trapped Yusuf alayhi salam in the room, then she locked the doors. She planned properly. You know, they say you do scenario planning in the corporate world. They say if he does this, then that. If he does that, then that. So she already knew that he'll try and run, because he was a noble boy. He had morals. Everybody could see that. So she locked the doors, and she locked it properly. Not just casually, properly, thoroughly. Now, a weak person would say, well, this is a beautiful woman here. I said no once, I said no twice, I said no thrice. How many more times am I saying no now? And she's locked the door, what can I do? Create an excuse for yourself. Yusuf alayhi salam ran from where he was standing, he ran towards the doors. Now on the apparent, it would seem like that's not logical. Why run to the door if the door is locked? Why run to the door if the door is locked? Mufti Taqi Sahib says an amazing thing. He says, Allah wants you to do what is within your control. When you do what is within your control, Allah will take care of the rest. He did what was within his control. From where he was in the room, he ran to the door. When he reached the door, Allah opened the door. Allah opened the door and Allah saved him. The results are out of your control, but do what is within your control. That's what I was saying in the Jummah talk as well today. Don't wait for others to lead. You lead. You be the change. In whichever field you're leading, be it in your house, or be it your masjid, or be it in your madrasa, or be it in your business, or be it in your community. You be the change. You be the revival. Then after that, whether you succeed or you fail, or whether it makes a difference or not, that's not your business. That's in the hands of Allah. That's in the hands of Allah. But do what you have to do. And that's what Yusuf alayhi salam did. He ran. And when he ran, Allah opened up the doors. And Allah saved him. The women started to talk. Look at this Zulaykha trying to trap her own servant. So Zulaykha said, you want to talk about me? I'll give you something to talk about. So she has the dawat. And when she has the dawat, we know the famous story. They're cutting the fruit and Yusuf alayhi salam walks in. And they're so mesmerized by his beauty that they end up cutting their fingers. Aisha radiallahu anha says those women who cut their fingers because they were captivated by the beauty of Yusuf alayhi salam, if they had to see the beauty of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, they would cut their hearts. They would cut their hearts. Now the woman understood, this is ma hada bashara, in hada illa malakun karim. Zulaykha, we understand. When you've got such a handsome fellow in front of you, then you go weak by the knees. So they gang up. Hey Yusuf, either you're going to listen and you're going to give in, or you go to jail. You go to jail. Now see, when Allah tests you, it's the system of Allah that Allah will test you repeatedly. The average student will pass once. The distinguished student passes repeatedly. He doesn't only pass the first term of the second, he passes every term and he comes out first every term. And that's a distinguished student, that's an A student. So Yusuf alayhi salam was trapped by Zulaykha and he resisted temptation, he passed. Now all of these women gang up on him and they're not just locking him in a room like Zulaykha did. They said, listen, you can't take us all on. You can't win against all of us. Either you give in or we will accuse you, and because of that accusation you're going to prison. The test is greater now. The test is greater. But Yusuf alayhi salam rises to the challenge and he says, Rabbi as-sijnu ahabbu ilayya mimma yad'unani ilayh. Allah, if I have been given a choice, zina or prison, then I'm ready to go to prison. Now that's the lesson that you learn, that he was a young man at the peak of his passion, but he feared Allah. He feared Allah. I'll say one more thing and then we wrap up for tonight. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught us that whilst we acknowledge the taqwa of Yusuf alayhi salam, we must also learn a lesson that don't give Allah one of two choices. They gave Yusuf alayhi salam one of two choices. The error that Yusuf alayhi salam made, we must use proper language when we talk about Anbiya, is that he said, oh Allah, if it's prison or zina, then I prefer prison. The better thing for him to have done was, oh Allah, save me from this predicament altogether. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said he should have asked Allah for afiyat. And Allah would have saved him from the temptation of zina, from the agenda of these women, without having to go to prison. But because you see, that's why when you make dua, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, don't dictate to Allah, don't prescribe to Allah. Because Allah knows what you don't know. Yusuf alayhi salam should have said, oh Allah, they've put me in a difficult situation, you help me. And left the matter to Allah. And Allah would have helped him in a way where he didn't have to go to prison. But it was meant to happen. Taqdeer was to play out. So because he said, oh Allah, I'd rather go to prison than give in to zina, he's acknowledged in the Quran for his taqwa and his piety, for his morality, but at the same time, he chose the more difficult route of avoiding zina. There could have been an easier route. That's why the scholars say, when you make dua to Allah, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, you want Jannah? Then ask Allah for the highest. Salillah al-Firdaus. Say, Allah, grant me Jannatul Firdaus. And then leave it there. Don't say Allah, 4-bedroom ensuite with 3 entrances, this kind of a roof, that kind of a patio. No. Then Allah will give you exactly that. Then when you look at somebody else's palace in Jannah, you say, I should have rather kept quiet. I just left it to Allah to decide what to give me. So don't prescribe to Allah. Allah, I'm in debt. Alleviate my debt. Don't say, Allah, make that man give me 500 pounds. Make that man give me 200 pounds. My father is very stingy, pull out the 300 from his pocket. No, leave it to Allah. Leave it to Allah. Allah, I'm ill, grant me shifa. Full stop. Grant me shifa. No, Allah, it must be by that doctor or by that hakim or that procedure. Don't prescribe to Allah. Because when you start prescribing, you're prescribing as per your knowledge. When Allah gives according to His knowledge. And Allah gives according to His treasures. So you want to limit Allah, then you'll be limited. But when you leave it open, Allahumma inni as'aluka Jannat al-Firdaus. Allah asks you for Jannat al-Firdaus. I know I'm not deserving of it, but I don't look at my weakness, I look at your greatness. Now what I'll get in Jannat al-Firdaus? Allah, you know better. Just Jannat al-Firdaus. That's it. That's what I want. The shortest du'as are the most effective du'as and the most comprehensive du'as and the most emphasized du'as in the supplications of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma inni as'aluka al-afwa. Allah asks you forgiveness. Wal-afiyah. Afiyah is a very comprehensive dua. It means good health. It means peace. It means security. It means prosperity. Fi dini wa dunya wal akhirah. In my deen, in my dunya and akhirah. If I got afiyat in my deen, in my dunya and akhirah, I got everything. I got everything. So these are the reflections that we need to internalize from the stories that the Quran narrate to us. We'll stop there today, inshallah, and continue tomorrow. May Allah tabarak wa ta'ala grant us understanding. So we continue the discussion on the Tafseer of Surah Yusuf. Yesterday, I concluded at the point where Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam is now given the option by those women who had joined Zulaykha in trying to seduce Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. And they said, either you give in to our seduction, or we will falsely accuse you and you will end up in jail. And Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam opted for jail rather than to commit zina, to commit haram, and to break the law of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Now, we take on the discussion further and we look at a reflection as to what happens in prison. Allah says, وَدَخَلَ مَعَهُ السِّجْنَ فَتَيَانِ. Two young men come into prison while Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam is in prison. And these two young men, they come to Yusuf alayhi salam and they tell him that we've seen a dream. Each one has seen a dream. نَبِّئْنَا بِتَأْوِيلِ. That, oh Yusuf, give us the interpretation. Now, here's my first point. Then why do they come to Yusuf alayhi salam? Why? They mention themselves in the words of the Quran, Inna naraka min al-muhsinin. We see you and find you to be a good man. You are a good man. That's why we're coming to you for the interpretation of our dream. The greatest da'wah is your akhlaq and character. The greatest da'wah is your akhlaq and character. You don't have to go to someone and say, open the Bible and open the Quran and let's do a comparison and let's see this and let's see that. The way Yusuf alayhi salam conducted himself in prison, the way he carried himself, his akhlaq and his character was such that it drew them to him. They said, Yusuf, we came to you, نَبِّئْنَا بِتَأْوِيلِ. Give us the interpretation. Why are we asking you? إِنَّا نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. The greatest remedy for Islamophobia is to carry yourself as a Muslim with the akhlaq and the conduct of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Other things can happen and should happen and will happen. But the most effective way of overcoming negative stereotypes and perceptions, the most effective way of letting people come to you and warm to the deen is via good akhlaq and character. And generally, even amongst Muslims themselves, right? Da'wah you normally do to non-Muslims, but even amongst Muslims themselves, that person who carries himself with maturity, who radiates superior morals and character, people gravitate towards him. They just gravitate towards him. Why him? Inna naraka min al-muhsinin. He's a good fellow. He's a good fellow. Now Yusuf alayhi salam seizes the opportunity. لا يأتيكما طعام ترزقانه إلا نبأتكما بتأويله قبل أن يأتيكما. Hey, listen, fellows. I'll tell you. You have a question, I'll give you the answer. And I won't keep you for too long. Before the meals are served, you'll have your interpretation of the dream. But I just want to tell you something about me. How is it that I have the ability to interpret dreams? ذَلِكُمَا مِمَّا عَلَّمَنِي رَبِّي. Allah has taught me. He brings Allah into the equation. He brings Allah into the equation. He could have attributed to himself and said, you see, I am the man. I have the skill. I have the talent. From a young age, I've been seeing dreams. So what's your dream, man? If I start telling you about my dream, your dream will be like insignificant. No. He brings Allah into the equation. مِمَّا عَلَّمَنِي رَبِّي. This is da'wah. And they don't even realize he's doing da'wah. Then he gives them a bayan without them realizing that they're getting a bayan. So he tells them, you guys met me, alright, I'll tell you about your dream, but let's just learn about each other. I'm Yusuf. إِنِّي تَرَكْتُ مِلَّةَ قَوْمٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ كَافِرُونَ. Those who don't believe in Allah and those who don't believe in the last day, I don't follow their way. Let me tell you what I follow. وَاتَّبَعْتُ مِلَّةَ آبَاءِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ. I follow the way of my father and my grandfather and my great-grandfather Ishaq and Yaqub. Which way is that? مَا كَانَ لَنَا أَن نُشْرِكَ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. We don't associate any partners with Allah. And it's not because we're very pious. ذَلِكَ مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا. It's Allah's bounty, Allah's ni'mah upon us. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. But many people are in ignorance. So indirectly he's telling them, come out of the ignorance, come to the light. Before you worry about your dream, worry about your aqidah and belief. Then who do you believe in? Ya sahiba as-sijn. Oh my friends in the prison, let me ask you a question, he says. أَأَرْبَابٌ مُتَفَرِّقُونَ خَيْرٌ أَمِ اللَّهُ الْوَاحِدُ الْقَهَّارُ. Is it better to worship a whole host of deities or one Allah, who is the Almighty, the All Supreme? And he says, these people, he's not telling them anything directly. Look at the usloob of da'wah. Nabi. He says, مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِهِ إِلَّا أَسْمَاءً سَمَّيْتُمُوهَا أَنْتُمْ وَآبَاؤُكُمْ مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ بِهَا مِن سُلْطَانٍ. Listen, what people are worshipping, it seems like it's just names that you've given to different deities. This is the God of this and this is the God of that, and we worship this for that and we worship that for that. إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. We can't just do our own thing. We can't just worship whoever we fancy. We have to worship Him. Allah wants us to worship, and Allah wants us to worship Him only. That's it. Short Jummah talk. Now he gets to the business end of it. They came for a maqsad and he fulfills that maqsad. Ya sahiba as-sijn, amma ahadukuma fayasqi rabbahu khamra wa amma al-akhar fayuslabu fatakulu at-tayru min ra'si. One of you will become he doesn't tell which interpretation fits on which one's dream. Because the one fellow is going to get a promotion when he comes out of prison and become the caterer to the king. And the other fellow is going to get killed. He's going to get executed. Now, how do you tell a man, your life is about up, Your days are numbered. You tell a man that he'll kill you. There's an anecdote. They say the king saw a dream. Not this king of Yusuf alayhi salam, some other anecdote. So he called for an interpretation. And the first person told him, your family will all die before you. So he killed the interpreter. So what kind of a bekar, useless interpretation you're giving him? All my family will die before me. So he called another interpreter and he narrated to him the dream. And this interpreter said to him, it's a very nice dream you saw, man. So what does it mean? From your whole family, you live the longest. Same thing. How you pitch it, how you couch it. The king gave him great gifts. To him. Well done. I'll live the longest. I'll live the longest. It's how you tell people something. There's an art. We have the sickness and we take pride in it. No, I told him what I needed to tell him, and he don't like it, he must eat 2 rotis extra. Me, I'm very straightforward. As if there is something to be proud of. That is contrary to the Sunnah. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was not that direct when it was offensive to people. When Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would address issues, he would say, مَا بَالُ أَقْوَامٍ. What's wrong with some people? They do this and they do that. أُدْعُ إِلَىٰ سَبِيلِ رَبِّكَ بِالْحِكْمَةِ. Call to the path of Allah with wisdom. مَوْعِظَةِ الْحَسَنَةِ. And if you have to engage, then in a beautiful way. And if it comes to a debate, وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي أَحْسَنُ. Always hold the moral high ground. Somebody else is getting emotional, his temperature is rising, is getting aggressive. You remain calm, you remain focused, you remain disciplined. That's the Sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I always give the example, Musa and Harun, two Anbiya, they're going to Fir'aun, the worst of the worst. They're going to a man who claims to be Allah. And Allah says, قُولَ لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا, speak to him nicely. Half the problems of the world can be avoided if we just speak nicely. And the other half of the problems of the world can be eradicated if we just speak nicely. There's a way of speaking. There's a way of speaking. And people whose character is refined, they know how to speak. The lehja, the tone, the words that they use. When they speak, how to speak and to whom to speak. You don't just say, I said it. By who are you speaking to? When are you speaking to him? You don't speak to the man when he's irritable. You don't speak to the man when he's rushing to the bathroom. He's got a need. You don't speak to him when he just woke up. Speak the right thing in the right way to the right person at the right time. That is what the Quran tells us. That's why one day someone was telling of Harun Rashid, he was the Amir al-Mu'mineen, and eventually Harun Rashid told him, listen, bhai, Allah said to Musa and Harun, alayhim as-salam, when they went to Fir'aun, that speak to him nicely. You're not better than the Anbiya and I'm not worse than Fir'aun. Speak properly. Speak properly. Sometimes people feel to be heard, they need to be loud. And they need to be vulgar. Actually, it's a sign that you don't have confidence. It's a sign that you don't have confidence in the strength of your own argument if you feel the need to raise your voice or to become vulgar. A person who's confident in what he's saying remains calm, remains composed. Anyway. So Yusuf alayhi salam says to them, listen, one of you will end up being crucified and one of you will end up being the king's caterer, serving him drinks. The one who ends up being the king's caterer, just do me one favor. Tell the king that there's my friend Yusuf who's in prison but he's innocent. Now what do we learn from here? Another lesson. To utilize means, to make use of asbab is not incorrect. It's actually the sunnah of the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam. Yusuf alayhi salam could have said, no, I'll sit in prison for as long as Allah wants me to sit and I'll just make dua. But no, he saw an opportunity, he took the opportunity. He said, listen, he didn't tell me, he said, from the two of you, the one who ends up there in the royal court, I've done you a favor. I ask in return that when you go there, just whisper in the king's ear, I have a friend in prison who's innocent, sort him out. Get him out. What I said this afternoon, human nature, no one returns the favor. فَأَنْسَاهُ الشَّيْطَانُ ذِكْرَ رَبِّهِ فَلَبِثَ فِي السِّجْنِ بِضْعَ سِنِينَ. This fellow, when he got to the royal court, he forgot Yusuf alayhi salam. And as a result, Yusuf alayhi salam had to stay in prison bid'a sinin, a few more years. A few more years, not days or weeks. Now, the king sees a dream. And this fellow sees an opportunity to impress the king. Because he realized, hey, there's Yusuf in prison. He knows how to interpret dreams. He said, I'll become a cupbearer, and I became a cupbearer. Who will believe you in prison? When you're in prison, you say, no, I saw a dream. You go to somebody in the prison. You're in prison, right? You're a convict. You're a criminal. And the person tells you, no, the interpretation of your dream is you're going to become the secretary to the prime minister. You say, bye, pull the other leg, man. I got a criminal record. When will I even see the prime minister, let alone work in his office? So at that time, perhaps maybe he thought that Yusuf alayhi salam is just saying something, and now all of a sudden he achieved that. But he forgot. Insan is like that. Insan forgets ihsan. Insan forgets ihsan. They forget the people who were good to them, who propped them up, who put them up. Now he says, hey, because now Insan also is very greedy. Being the wine bearer or the cup bearer to the king is one thing. Now he wants a promotion, he wants to go higher. So if I can get a good interpretation for this king, my promotion is secured. Yusuf ayyuha as-siddiq, he comes running to the prison. Yusuf, my friend. Oh, my friend, you forgot me for a couple of years. No, Yusuf, my friend. Aftina fi sab'i baqarat. Come give us this interpretation. Now look at Yusuf alayhi salam, this akhlaq. You and I would have walked away, would have said, bye, you forgot me, why must I help you now? But there was a nation to be saved. It's the sunnah of the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, but for the sake of greater good, you sacrifice your personal convenience and your personal issues. This afternoon is what I was saying, when we were talking about family, that for the sake of family, because the strength of the family means the strength of the ummah, you let go your grudge, you let go your haq, you let go your gripe, and you be the smaller person for the sake of the greater good. Yusuf alayhi salam could have told him, no, I'm not interested. You forgot me, don't come now. But Yusuf alayhi salam said, people need to be saved from the drought. But Yusuf alayhi salam now did one important thing. He came and he said, I have one condition and one condition only. Clear my name. Clear my name. Then it's game on. I'll give you the interpretation. I'll give you the solution also. Another sunnah of the Anbiya alayhi salam is not only to help a person diagnose the problem, but also to offer a solution. So Yusuf alayhi salam told him this is what is going to happen, 7 years of drought. Or 7 years of prosperity followed by 7 years of drought. But this is what you need to do in the 7 years of prosperity in order to be able to navigate the 7 years of drought. But I have one condition. I'll do the job. Clear my name. You see, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "Ittaqu mawadi'at tuham." Live your life in such a way that you don't give people the basis to point an accusatory finger against you. Now, we again find ourselves on either one of two extremes. We live our lives so carelessly, right? You need a bottle of water, you go into a pub to buy it. Then someone tells you, what you're doing? It's water. If somebody else wants to have Bad Kuman, it's his problem. But you only found a pub to buy a bottle of water. You couldn't go to the store. Now what's wrong if I went into the pub? I'm going to give you a basic example. But generally, we do certain things which will make people suspicious and we say to hell with them. They must think what they want to think. I couldn't give a damn. I couldn't give a damn. That's one extreme. The other extreme is to be obsessed with what people think. Then you can't live. So Yusuf alayhi salam, the hadith says, "Ittaqu mawadi'at tuham." Don't be careless and don't be reckless that you give people an opportunity unnecessarily to point an accusatory finger against you. Right? But on the other hand, if you're living your life cautiously, you're doing what is practical, what is realistic, and then if people still want to suspect you and they still want to accuse you, then that shouldn't bother you. Like Imam Shafi'i used to say, قُلْ بِمَا شِئْتَ فِي مَسَبَّةِ عِرْضِي. That listen, say whatever you want to say about me. فَسُكُوتِي عَنِ اللَّئِيمِ جَوَابُ. I won't answer. مَا أَنَا عَادِمُ الْجَوَابِ. It's not that I can't answer. It's not that I don't have the ability to answer. But مَا مِنَ الْأُسُدِ أَيْ يُجِيبَ الْكِلَابُ. It's not necessary for a lion to roar every time the dog barks. Because it's the dog's job to just bark the whole day. So it's some people's job in life, they got PhD, they just gossip, slander, whole day. That's their job. Anything come on WhatsApp, forward. Then they put, disclaimer, forwarded as received. Retweets are not endorsements. It may work here, but in the court of Allah it doesn't. Why you forwarded it? What majah you wanted out of forwarding that message about someone else? And I said, no, I don't know if it's true or not. I'm not saying anything. I got it, so I forwarded it. So Imam Shafi'i says, listen, for those people who want to talk, I will live a cautious life in line with the hadith. I won't unnecessarily be reckless to give you an opportunity to point a finger at me. That's the one extreme. But the other extreme is I can't live my whole life answering everyone. So, those of you who haven't been to South Africa, come to South Africa. Then we'll take you to the Kruger Park and we'll show you how the lion conducts himself. The male lion, in nature there's great lesson. The male lion does nothing. In our terminology, the male lion is your typical couch potato. He doesn't hunt. The females hunt. He doesn't even play with the children. You come, we take you Lion Park, right? So Lion Park is not Kruger Park. Kruger Park is very big. It's like a whole country and you have to travel and then it's on your luck. You see, you don't see. But Lion Park, they're all there. It's like an open enclosure. You'll see when the children come play with the male lion, he gets cross. He chases them away, the cubs. They must go to their mother. Sounds familiar? So what's he doing then? Now, if you have to use the terminologies that we use, he's your typical chauvinist. The females must hunt. When they bring down the animal, he chow first. He eats first. And they allow him to eat first. So they bring, they bring down, let's say they bring down a buffalo, right? A whole pride of females bring down. Hazrat Ji is at the back. He's observing the whole thing, like a referee, like an umpire. Right. Mission accomplished, successful. He goes first. That's where the English phrase comes from, lion's share. The lion's share. He takes his share, they must eat the leftovers. But what's the wisdom behind all of this? When any other predator takes a chance with any of the female lions or any of the cubs, or if the hyenas come to try and take the food. Hyenas are opportunists. They can't hunt, so they wait for the predators to hunt, they come steal the food. If there's 2 female lions around a carcass, 20 hyenas will come and surround and take the food and go. That's when he roars. He doesn't utilize his energy for frivolity. You won't find a male lion in a jungle roaring like a dog barking all the time. He just sits under the tree and he's sleeping. After a lion eats, he can sleep on one spot for 3 days. But boy, if anyone dares interfere with his women or his children or his food or his pride, then that roar will shake the jungle. I was seeing one clip where the hyena interfered with the lion. The lion didn't kill the hyena, it broke the spine of the hyena. And the experts say it was to teach the other hyenas a lesson. I won't kill you, that's being merciful to you. I'll make you suffer. I'll break your spine. So that's how you must live your life. When you speak, it must be worthwhile speaking. Otherwise, keep quiet. Be like a lion. Don't be like a dog all day, just making noise, because then people don't take you seriously. Even if you're right all the time, people don't take you seriously. He's all the time just going on about something or the other. And those are the people amongst humans who are the dangerous ones. They quiet, they quiet, they quiet. You provoke them, you provoke them, you provoke them. But when they spring into action, red kalima bhai. So that's what Imam Shafi's poetry is deep. He says, I don't want to be like a dog, responding to everyone, barking all the time. A dog, you walk past there, he's barking. The next guy you walk past, he's barking. The third guy walks past, he's barking. The lion, there'll be 20 cars in the Kruger Park, parked around the lion. He couldn't be bothered. He's sleeping under the tree. He knows what's happening. He can sense the activity. It poses no danger to him. He's not going to expand his energy unless absolutely necessary. But he conserves his energy, and his females give him the priority because they know when there is any threat, he springs into action. He springs into action. Anyway, I was going into animal discussion. So Yusuf alayhi salam says, clear my name. And these women come forward and they say, أَنَا رَوَدْتُهُ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ وَإِنَّهُ لَمِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ. That listen, we tried to seduce him, but in reality, he was innocent. His name is cleared. We'll leave it there. Tomorrow we continue, inshallah. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanallah. So we continue with the tafseer of Surah Yusuf. Yesterday I concluded by talking about how Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam made only one condition when he was released from prison, and that is that his name must be cleared. And that condition was fulfilled. The women were called up and they exonerated Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam and said, وَإِنَّهُ لَمِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ. He's always been speaking the truth. The fault has been with us. And I explained how you should not live your life recklessly, where you unnecessarily give people an opportunity to point an accusatory finger at you. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has cautioned us in this regard that ittaqu mawadi'a tuham, that be careful about putting yourself in such a position that people can point a finger at you and make an accusation at you. However, at times, no matter how straight or how clean you live your life, people will still speak. And for such people, you be like a lion that doesn't need to roar every time the dog barks. Now, we move further in the story of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. Just understand the context. Understand the context. These women accused him. They schemed. They planned. They plotted. And the result of that was, he ended up in prison. And he remained in prison for quite some time. Now he gets out. And he makes a condition that they must clear my name. They must tell the public that I was innocent. One of the reasons Yusuf alayhi salam wanted his name to be cleared is because he understood he had to play a leadership role now. So there must be no question mark around his integrity. That he's going to take charge of the finances of Egypt. People will say, but this man here, can we trust him? So he wanted his name to be cleared. But the point now is, after his name is cleared, look at what he says. وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي. Listen here. Now that you've cleared my name of the accusation, now that you've made it very well known that I did not commit zina, I just want to say that I don't consider myself totally free of blame. Let that just sink in for a moment. Normally, even when we are wrong, we struggle in saying that I'm wrong. Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam was right. He was totally in the right. But his humility was such that he said, I won't totally exonerate myself. Maybe I could have also handled the situation better and been less of a temptation to these women. So no doubt, he did not give in to their demands. He did not succumb to the temptation. But he said, I'm not going to put all the blame only on them. I have to also say, maybe I could have done better in the way I conducted myself, and things could have worked out a little bit differently. There is such a profound lesson for us in this. Today, there are very few people who can say, I was wrong, when they are wrong. And there are very few people who can say that there's a possibility that I'm wrong. We are determined to be right every time, all the time. The great giants, the great fuqaha, like Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Malik, the great jurists. Just imagine what was the extent of their knowledge, that till today people follow them, follow their interpretation, follow their rulings. Yet they used to have a principle, رَأْيُنَا صَحِيح يَحْتَمِلُ الْخَطْأ. I consider my viewpoint to be correct with the possibility of being incorrect. And the opposing view, I consider it to be incorrect with the possibility of being correct. Today we have a view, there can be no other view. I am right, not full stop, I am right, 3 exclamation marks. I can only be right over petty issues or even over serious issues. Human beings see things differently. They will interpret things differently. Look at the humility of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. Here's a man who was falsely accused, and as a result of that false accusation, he ends up in prison. If any one of us had to go through that, after our name was cleared, we would want maximum punishment for the people who accused us, and then we would go on until our last breath to say, my story, this is how they did wrong by me. Yusuf alayhi salam showed emotional maturity, emotional intelligence, that like what has happened, but I must also learn from it. Could I have done things better? Maybe was I somehow at fault in that I conducted myself in a way that she became charmed by me, or they became enthralled by me. This is the sign of a humble human being. You're always looking inward to see, how can I improve? The most difficult moment in the time of Rasulullah was Taif. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is driven out of Taif in a very insulting, degrading way, where they make the children drive him out. The children are pelting him sallallahu alaihi wasallam with stones, and the blood is flowing, and the shoes are clogging with the blood. And I was explaining after Fajr, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is now in no man's land. He's left Makkah, he can't go in, except if he gets protection. He's out of Taif. He's now totally exposed. He's totally vulnerable. At that juncture, Jibreel alayhi salam descends and gives him the option. You say the word, we drop the mountains on the people of Taif. But look at the emotional maturity of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. At that point, the Nabi of Allah was not worried about vengeance. If you read the dua, he said, Oh Allah, I complain to you about my weakness. He didn't say, Allah, I complain to you about the people of Makkah, or I complain to you about the people of Taif. No. Oh Allah, I complain to you about my weakness. Oh Allah, if you are happy with me, then none of this matters. What they bring to me is insignificant as long as you're happy with me. And if you're not happy with me, they can treat me like a king, but it's worth nothing. So whenever there's difficulty and hardship, the Quran teaches us, before you lay blame at others, even if they are blameworthy, right? Here these women were blameworthy, there's no doubt about it. They blatantly accused him, and he suffered a great consequence of having to languish in prison. But he looked inward. How can I improve myself? وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي. The nafs will always try and play its part, except if Allah protects me. Then the next lesson we learn here is that Yusuf a.s. said to the king, make me the minister of finance. Inni hafidun alim. I have two qualities. I am honest and I have knowledge. You see, you need honesty, which is a value, and you need capacity, which is a skill. When those two women whom Musa a.s. helped, the daughters of Shu'aib a.s., when they went to their father and said, hire Musa a.s., they said, we see him as al-qawi, he has ability. Al-amin is trustworthy. And both these qualities are necessary. Because you may have a person who's very capable, but if he's not trustworthy, can't work. You're running a business, you have a manager who's very sharp. He's got a good business mind. But he's hitting the till. Can't work. On the other hand, you have a man who's very honest, but he's dumb. What he saves you by not stealing, he loses you by making bad decisions. So, in important positions, you need a person who's honest and a person who has the ability. So Yusuf a.s. said, Inni hafidun alim. I'm honest to manage the finances. You don't give money to just anyone. And I have the ability. Yeah, another lesson the scholars tell us is that when it's necessary for the greater good, you can put yourself forward. Normally, humility would demand that you don't ask for a position. Humility would demand that you don't ask for a position, especially a position of such great responsibility, because with it comes great accountability. You have to answer. You have to answer to the people and you have to answer to Allah. But if you genuinely know, not that your ego is telling you, that I'm the best man for the job, then you have the right to come forward and say, look, I think I can do this. Give me an opportunity. I think I can do this. Give me the opportunity. The third thing I want to mention about Yusuf a.s. So now he takes the throne of Egypt. Some say he's minister of finance, some say the king abdicated and retired, and he became the overall king of Egypt. Whatever the case, maybe he was in a position of great authority. وَجَاءَ إِخْوَةُ Yusuf. Now the brothers come. Because there's drought. And he has managed the finances such that in the 7 years of prosperity, they never lived at the limit. They lived within the budget. They had some fat. They had some left over. This is a general rule in life. Never live at the limit. That I earn £1,000, I spend £1,000. Why? One, there can always be a rainy day. There can always be a rainy day. So you need some reserves. And two, if you live within your means, if something like COVID happens, where overnight the whole world comes to a standstill, who would have imagined something like that can happen? Now the whole world comes to a standstill, there's no movement. For some people there was no business whatsoever, depending on the nature of their business. If you're living at the limit, you're living the maximum that you can afford, now for you to make an adjustment to your lifestyle becomes very difficult. It becomes very difficult. So if you're earning 8 out of 10, you can live at 6 out of 10. There's greater security in that. There's also greater itminan and contentment in that. Because Allah forbid, if my finance take a bit of a dip, I lose my job, if the economy takes a bit of a downturn, if something happens, it's not so difficult for me to adjust my lifestyle. And two, I have reserves. Now some people feel, hey, you live today, don't worry about tomorrow. Do it now. Listen, when you lose, you walk alone. Even though your mantra may be that you never walk alone. The day you have, everyone walks with you. The day you don't have, Everyone say we're making dua for you. Nobody wants to walk with you. So it's an empty slogan. It's an empty slogan to say that you never walk alone. When things are good, everyone is with you and they support you. When things are not good, slowly, they just disappear from around you. They disappear from around you. So live within your means. And that's what Yusuf alayhi salam applied, that tactic. That in the 7 years of prosperity, they didn't eat everything. They didn't live to the maximum. They saved. So in the 7 years of adversity, they had leftover. Now, his brothers come from Canaan. Canaan is in Palestine. He's in Egypt. وَجَاءَ إِخْوَةُ يُوسُف. They heard that, look, there's a king in Egypt and he's got reserves. And he's giving people who need. And this is what humanity deserves. Or what humanity demands. The other day I was talking about materialism and how we always want to make a buck. When people are desperate, you lower your price. What we do, we inflate the price. When something is a necessity, not a luxury, right? If something is a necessity, then you don't hoard. You don't create a demand in the market so that the price can be inflated, because then your pockets will bulge, but you'll have no barakah. That's not the humane thing to do. So the people of Egypt didn't say, under the leadership of Yusuf alayhi salam, was an ethical leader. Listen here, this is our boundary. Bye. You got no visa. You don't come here and ask us for food because we also went through the drought. No. We manage. Now what do we do? Why he didn't save? Sometimes, I can't understand people. The man will come to the masjid and give a massive donation, but his brother is starving. Blood brother. And you say, but bhai, listen, all right, give to the masjid. I'm not saying don't give to the masjid, but your brother, you're giving to Palestine, you're sending back home to the gown, but your brother, Moulana, his wife very extravagant. He must learn to, whatever the case may be, he's in a problem. He's in a difficulty. He's in a hardship. So Yusuf alayhi salam didn't say, no, why you people didn't manage your affairs better? See, we knew. He said, okay, you in need, come. So people were coming. Now his brothers come. Which brothers? The brothers who stole his vaso? No. The brothers who stole his life and threw him down into a well, and because of whom he became a slave, and because of whom he was accused of zina, and because of whom he had to spend time in prison. وَجَاءَ إِخْوَةُ يُوسُف فَدَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ. Now they enter. فَعَرَفَهُمْ. Allah says immediately he knew who they were. وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. They didn't know who he was. I want to pause for a moment. Put yourself in his position. The man who committed the greatest wrong against you walks in the room. He is helpless. And you sitting in a position of authority and power. How will you conduct yourself? How will you conduct yourself? You have all the cards. What some of the leaders are saying, we got no card to play. Right? Yusuf alayhi salam is holding all the cards. He can deprive them of food. He can have them arrested. He can have them imprisoned. He can have them executed. He can have them publicly shamed. He's got all the cards. They got nothing. They don't even know who he is. But he keeps control of his emotions. That's another great lesson we learn from Surah Yusuf. See, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, a strong man is not the one who goes to the gym and pumps iron and then he got a six-pack. A strong man is he who can control his emotions when he's emotional. When you're happy, anybody can be in control. But when you're angry, when you're upset, when you hurt, when it's cutting deep. Yusuf alayhi salam, after all, was a human. The same brothers walk in with begging bowls, literally with begging bowls. He's got all the cards. He can do whatever he wants to them, but he keeps control. Second, linked to our after Fajr session, he becomes strategic. He's got a bigger goal. You see, people who are strategic, they focus on the larger goal, not the shorter goal. I don't know if you've ever seen a fishing competition. I don't know, all these examples of nature are coming to my mind. Maybe I need to go in the bush for a couple of days. So yesterday it was about lions and today it's about fish. You and I, when we go for fish, it's about quantity, right? Oh, he got 20 fish, I got 30 fish, like that. The expert fisherman, he's not worried about quantity. Who caught the biggest fish? Right? So these people who do fishing as a sport, as a professional sport, they can feel on the rod whether it's a big fish or a small fish. So let's say he's got a thing in mind, I want a fish that's 20 kilos. He can feel on his rod, this is a 5 kilo. They don't even bother to reel it in, they just cut the line. Put in a new hook, bait and recast. I don't want to waste my time and I don't want to waste my energy. I don't want that fish. I want that one, the big goat. So people of emotional intelligence, they don't get caught up in settling scores, petty scores. That's what you need to be now. I'll show you what I did to you. I'll show you. You thought you removing me from the equation. See where I've ended up. From the bottom of the well to the throne of Egypt. No. Yusuf had a bigger picture in mind. He needed to unite the whole family. So starts talking to them. Who are you people? How many brothers you have? This, that. You got another brother. Binyamin, why never come? No, dad is too attached to him. Dad doesn't want him to travel. Now imagine at that time to keep why your father doesn't want you to travel. You think I don't know? Because of what you did to Yusuf. No, he keeps control, composure. This is a great lesson. It's a great sunnah of the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, to remain composed. It's a great sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as well. قال ائتوني بأخ لكم من أبيكم. Bring him with next time. Why? Because I'm giving, we're rationing, right? We're rationing, it's drought. So an extra person comes, you get an extra ration. Like this, he's not coming, you're going to take your food, right? But there's an extra mouth to feed there. Whereas if you bring him, you're going to get an extra portion from the ration. Makes sense? And when they come, they tell their father, مُنِعَ مِنَّا الْكَيْلِ فَأَرْسِلْ مَعَنَا أَخَانَا نَقْتَلْ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. And look at what the father said. هل آمنكم عليه إلا كما أمنتكم على أخيه من قبل. You're making all your promises. I'm going to send him because I have to. We need the food. But I have no trust in you. Because you lied to me last time. What stops you from lying me now? فَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا. My reliance is in Allah. وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. Now he gives his sons one piece of advice. And he says, Ya Baniyya, oh my sons, we all know about the beauty of Yusuf alayhi salam, and his beauty was extraordinary, right? But his brothers were also handsome. Not as handsome as Yusuf, but they were handsome. They were a handsome family. Good-looking family. So here's the principle tied up to the very first lesson that I mentioned when we started this discussion. Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam says to his sons, Ya Baniyya, لا تدخلوا من باب واحد وادخلوا من أبواب متفرقة. All of you don't, you see Egypt had many doors. Like nowadays you have multiple borders. You want to go to a particular country, you can use this border, that border, that border. You want to go to Saudi, you can land in Medina, you can land in Jeddah, you can land in Riyadh. So he said, don't all of you enter Egypt from the same door. You are handsome boys who will draw unnecessary attention. People want to know, who are these boys? Whose sons are they? And unnecessary attention is never healthy. وَادْخُلُوا مِنْ أَبْوَابٍ مُتَفَرِّقَةٍ. Enter from different doors. This is a golden principle in life. Live your life silently. Under the radar. Like I said the first day, don't flaunt, don't advertise, don't amplify, don't magnify everything that's happening in your life. No need. Absolutely no need. The people who have made the greatest amount of wealth in the main are the people who do it silently. You know me, I just got this habit of reading all sorts of things, different things, and watching, and I just have an interest in so many different things. So there are a couple of these people on social media, they talk about how to make money. Now, I know nothing about business, just for interest's sake. I've never made business, and my wife always tells me, you don't go to business, why the whole family will become bankrupt. You don't know how to do business. But this person said something, they said, make money quietly. So, not Muslim, he was just talking from his life experience. He said, make money quietly. He said, the people that make money loudly, they have glitter. The ones who make money quietly, they have gold. Yeah, those who are loud, they have fancy car, fancy house, fancy watch, there's that. They're on the lower rung of the ladder of rich. The ones on the top, when you see him walking on the street, you don't know he's a rich man. You don't know he's a rich man. Those are the people who are smart. Those are the people who are astute. They don't draw unnecessary attention to what they're doing. You don't have to do anything wrong. One is you being discreet because you know what you're doing is wrong. You don't want people to know. You do right. You live a clean life. You live an ethical life. But live a quiet life. Live a quiet life. Life will be less complicated for you. Less complicated for you. And you'll have less people worried about what's happening in your life. That's why the Sahabi came to Rasulullah and he said, Ya Rasulullah, give me the recipe for success. Nabi Sallallahu told him two things. One was spiritual and the other one was material. Ittaqil maharim takun a'bad al-nas. Stay away from haram, you'll become the Junaid Baghdadi of your time. And really today, you see the ulama tell us, in Khairul Qurun, they used to read Fajr with the wuzu of Isha. I used to think it's impossible until I came to UK in summer. I said it's very possible to read Fajr with the wuzu of Isha. But in South Africa, it's rather difficult. Right? Unless you got what they call in South Africa stainless steel wuzu. When you're in his class, you have stainless steel wuzu. Those who know. But that was the extent of piety, right? That it was like you read in the books and you think, how's this man? They say 40 years the man read Fajr namaz with the wuzu of Isha namaz. Then he was considered to be a buzruk, a saint. That the benchmark was very high because it was Khairul Qurun. And you had to give half your wealth in charity to be considered generous. But as you get closer to Qiyamah, because of all the fitan, because of all the fasad, Allah drops the barometer. To be a buzruk today, to be a saint today, just do what is compulsory. And what is compulsory is minimal. 5 daily salah, 2.5% zakat, 30 fasts in the year, hajj one time in a lifetime. So what is farad is minimal. Stay away from haram. Stay away from sin. If you can stay away from sin, you are the Abdul Qadir Jilani of this age. You don't have to read Fajr every day with the wuzu of Isha. If you do it, that's a bonus. You don't have to have a massive namaz mark on your forehead. You don't have to be burning holes in the musalla, as they say. I'm not saying you mustn't exert yourself. I'm saying that the barometer is dropped because we don't live in the best of times. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told him that time already. Listen, it's simple. Ittaqil maharim takun a'bad al-nas. Stay away from haram, you will be the greatest of worshippers. وَازْهَدْ فِي مَا عِنْدَكَ النَّاسِ يُحِبُّكَ النَّاسِ وَازْهَدْ فِي مَا عِنْدَ النَّاسِ يُحِبُّكَ النَّاسِ. That don't have a envious eye. Your eye mustn't all the time be roving. What car he's driving? What shoe he's wearing? Oh, what kind of watch he got in his wrist? Hey, how many times he went for Umrah? Which school his child is going to? Hey, which cloak his wife is wearing? When you do like that, you'll never be satisfied with what you have. You'll never be satisfied with what you have. And people won't like you because they all the time feel you're trying to compete with them. Or you're very envious and jealous of them. Rather, when it comes to matters of deen, look at those who are doing more than you. You're reading 5 times namaz, see, hey, that man is doing tahajjud, I must become like him. And when it comes to matters of dunya, always look at those who got less. I don't have a car, he don't have legs. I'm renting a house, he's on the street. If you can live your life with this, stay away from haram, sorts out your deen. Sorts out your deen. You buzruk. And don't have an envious, roving eye towards what everybody else is enjoying in terms of the ni'am and the bounties of Allah. You live a content life. You live a content life. You don't need to go to a shrink and pay £100 per hour. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gave us that price. You don't need to read books or go to seminars. Simple. But it's the simple things that we don't do. Anyway, they come with Binyamin. The strategist in Yusuf alayhi salam, we know the story. The cup is placed in Binyamin's luggage. As they're going, Ayyatu al-Eer. Hey, the king's cup is missing. They're like, what do you think? You steal? Is it here? But now look. How, they were norms, right? They were norms. In every era there's a norm. So there was a norm that if you steal something, then you become the commodity and the belonging of the person from whom you stole. So before they searched them, they said, what's the punishment? They said, this is the punishment. They said, okay, you sure? You say, yeah. Now they searched them, they found it. So Binyamin has to stay. Now that Binyamin has to stay, the brothers, they have aged also a little bit, right? They've become little biased. So when they were young, they had no remorse over what they did. But as they grew, everyone's got a conscience. even the one brother, remember initially the plot was to kill Yusuf alayhi salam. Then Allah says, قَالَ قَائِلٌ مِّنْهُمْ, one brother said, لَا تَقْتُلُوا Yusuf. Don't kill him. Killing is a step too far. Then we got blood on our hands. وَأَلْقُوهُ فِي غَيَابَةِ الْجُبِّ. Throw him in the well. Then whatever happens, we're not directly responsible. We're kind of indirectly responsible. So don't kill him. In the end, murder is a step too far, and then he's also our brother. But as they matured and as they grew up, their conscience also was pricking them. So they said, now, how are we going to? That time we were guilty. This time we're not guilty. But honestly, how do we know that this Binyamin is going to take the cup? So Yehuda was so embarrassed. He was the eldest son. He was so embarrassed that how can I go to my father for the second time and tell him exactly what we told him won't happen has happened again? So he said, no, you people carry on. I will stay behind. And I will try and fight the case of Binyamin to secure his release. We'll leave it there for today, inshallah, and continue and conclude tomorrow, inshallah. Yesterday, we left the story where Binyamin is kept back. And the eldest brother, Yehuda, he says to his brothers, ارجعوا إلى أبيكم, that go back to our father. فقولوا يا أبانا إن ابنك سرق. That, oh dad, listen, you won't believe us because it's the second time it's happened. But the fact of the matter is, your son stole. They found the king's cup in his luggage. And if you don't believe us, وَاسْأَلِ الْقَرْيَةَ الَّتِي كُنَّا فِيهَا. Ask the people. Ask the people. It was a big story now. Ask the people. They'll tell you. Naturally, Yaqub alayhi salam is skeptical. قَالَ بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ أَمْرًا. He says the same words he said to them years prior when they came to him and said, إِنَّا ذَهَبْنَا نَسْتَبِقْ. We went to play and to race. وَتَرَكْنَا يُوسُفَ عِنْدَ مَتَاعِنَا. And we left Yusuf with the luggage. We told Yusuf, just park off here, just wait here. Your elder brothers are playing a game, it's not for you. فَأَكَلَهُ الذِّئْبُ. And a wolf ate him. وَمَا أَنْتَ بِمُؤْمِنٍ لَنَا. And that, you don't believe us? وَلَوْ كُنَّا صَادِقِينَ. But we're talking the truth. We're talking the truth. So they said it all those years prior, when it was Yusuf alayhi salam. And that time, in the words of the Quran, Yaqub alayhi salam said, بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ أَمْرًا. That you've made up the story. فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. Now I will beautifully adopt patience. وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانِ. And Allah is the one who will help me in this situation which you have orchestrated. He said it at the time when he got the news that Yusuf alayhi salam is now missing. However, just understand Yaqub alayhi salam's plight. Understand his plight. He loses his son Yusuf. And for years now, he's separated from Yusuf alayhi salam. To the point that he cries and he weeps and he grieves until he loses his eyesight. Until he loses his eyesight. Now here's the question. We all know it's natural to grieve, but we also know Islam says life has got to move on. That's why according to the Sunnah, the mourning period is 3 days. And for the woman who's lost her husband, 4 months and 10 days. Then life moves on. After that she's allowed to get married again. So loss is there, but you don't grieve to such an extent that it incapacitates you. You can't say don't grieve at all. It's a natural human emotion. When Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was holding his son Ibrahim in his hands, and Ibrahim radiallahu anh was taking him his final breaths, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was crying. And one Sahabi said, Ya Rasulullah, you crying? He said, yes, it's my son. Allah has put love for him in my heart. وَإِنَّا بِفِرَاقِكَ يَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ لَمَحْزُونُونَ. Your departure from this world, O Ibrahim, has made us grieve. But we'll only say that which is pleasing to Allah. However, you don't hear any narration that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was so depressed, or he cried to such an extent that he lost his eyesight because of the departure of Ibrahim. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam lost all his children in his lifetime besides one. Think about it. To lose one child is catastrophic. Every parent will say, I never thought I will be lowering my own child into the grave. I thought my children will be lowering me into the grave. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam buried every one of his children himself. except Fatima radiallahu anha. Except Fatima radiallahu anha. And she passed away some 6 months after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So that's what Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam went through. So yeah, here's the question that Yaqub alayhi salam is a Nabi. He comes from the house of Nubuwwah. Why did he grieve so excessively? And the answer is beautiful. He never grieved because he thought Yusuf alayhi salam had passed away. He knew he was alive. The interpretation of the dream. He knew he was alive. He never grieved because he thought that Yusuf alayhi salam will end up being a failure in life. He knew because of the dream that ultimately my son is going to succeed. So why did he grieve? He was worried that what's the quality of the iman of my son? My son is no ordinary son, he's the son of a Nabi. He's a grandson of a Nabi, he's a great grandson of a Nabi. I can't see him, I can't supervise him. I know he's Muslim because the dream. That much I'm assured. But is his quality at that level which is expected of the son and grandson and great-grandson of a Nabi? That is what was finishing Yaqub alayhi salam. That's why when he was on his deathbed, he didn't say, what are you going to do? Who's going to run the business? Who's going to run the shop? مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن بَعْدِي. Who are you going to worship after me? Who are you going to worship after me? So on a lighter note, they say there was this man, entrepreneur. Yeah? And he was on his deathbed. So his son came. So he opened his eyes a little bit, gone. Say, Baji, your son Muhammad, don't worry, I'm here. Okay. Then after a while, the daughter came. Who's it? Baji, your daughter Fatima, I'm here. Okay. Then after a while, his wife came. Who's it? It's your wife, Amina, I'm here. Then he keeps quiet for a while. Says, Muhammad. Say, Baji, I'm here. Fatima, I'm here. Amina, I'm here. So who's in the shop then? Who's in the shop then? So that was not Yaqub alayhi salam's concern. His concern is who are you going to worship after me? The iman of your children. That's your primary concern. Look at Ibrahim alayhi salam's dua. He didn't say, I'm Ibrahim. I'm Khalilullah. رب اجعل هذا البلد آمنا وجنبني وبني أن نعبد الأصنام. Oh Allah, protect me and my progeny from idol worship. Nabi is making dua. رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة. Oh Allah, make me one who doesn't just perform salah but I establish salah. I perform salah as it ought to be performed. ومن ذريتي. And make from my progeny, my children, such that they are punctual with their salah. Now, Yaqub alayhi salam grieves over Yusuf to the point that he loses his eyesight. His calamity, his difficulty doesn't double, it triples. Because from Yusuf, he's now lost Binyamin and Yehuda didn't come back. So he grieves. His children criticize him that for how much are you going to cry over Yusuf? He says, Ya asafa ala Yusuf. Oh, my grief over Yusuf. وَبْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ. Lost his eyesight. And they say, تَاللَّهِ تَفْتَوْ تَذْكُرُ يُوسُف حَتَّى تَكُونَ حَرَضًا أَوْ تَكُونَ مِنَ الْهَالِكِينَ. Hey, old man, how much are you going to go on Yusuf till you die? Look at his response. إِنَّمَا أَشْكُو بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. I'm not complaining to you, I'm complaining to Allah. When you're grieving and you're going through a hard time, you lodge your complaint with Allah. People will get tired listening to your stories and listening to your complaint. But there's a balance. So indeed, yes, Yaqub alayhi salam grieved, over Yusuf and Binyamin and Yehuda, 3 children, 3 sons. But simultaneously, look at his optimism. Asallahu an ya'tiyani bihim jami'a. I have hope Allah will return to me all 3 of my sons. All 3 of my sons. In the sea of negativity, you lost your one son and for so many years you haven't found him. Now you get the news the second one is gone and the third one is gone. It intensifies your grief, which is a natural thing, but you remain hopeful in the mercy of Allah. I have hope Allah will bring all 3 of them to me. Then he says to his sons, Ya bani yadhabu. My sons, go. فَتَحَسَّسُوا مِن يُوسُفَ وَأَخِيهِ. Go and look for Yusuf and go and try and release Binyamin. وَلَا تَيْأَسُوا مِن رَوْحِ اللَّهِ. Never, ever become despondent of the mercy of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. إِنَّهُ لَا يَيْأَسُ مِن رَوْحِ اللَّهِ إِلَّا الْقَوْمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. It is only one who doesn't believe in Allah who will lose hope in the mercy of Allah. There's no situation, there's no difficulty, there's no hardship, there's no predicament, there's no challenge which is beyond the mercy of Allah. That's what Allah says. أَنَا عِنْدَ ظَنِّ عَبْدِي بِي Hadith Qudsi, I treat you as per your expectations of me. You have good thoughts of me, I'll treat you positively. You have good thoughts of me, I will treat you positively. Then they come to Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam and they say, this is our predicament, we need not only a ration, but we need you to give us extra. We need you to give us extra. فَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَى يُوسُفَ قَالُوا يَا أَيُّهَا الْعَزِيزُ. Say, Minister, مَسَّنَا وَأَهْلَنَا الضُّرُّ. We are in hell of a difficulty. وَجِئْنَا بِبِضَاعَةٍ مُزْجَاةٍ فَأَوْفِ لَنَا الْكَيْلَ وَتَصَدَّقْ عَلَيْنَا. Give us what you're giving everybody and give us extra. We need it. Give us what you're giving everybody, the stipulated share, and give us extra. And Allah yadzil mutasaddiqeen, and they say, the one who gives extra, sadaqah, Allah will reward him. Allah will reward him. They were in a desperate situation. Imagine, you're coming back to that king who's just apprehended your brother on the charges of theft. Now, remember what I said yesterday? Yusuf alayhi salam maintained emotional control of his emotions until it was the right time. He now asked them the question, هل علمتم ما فعلتم بيوسف وأخيه إذ أنتم جاهلون. Subhanallah. Listen here. Do you remember what you did to Yusuf and his brother when you were ignorant? He's already making an excuse for them. What would we say? You forgot what you did. You forgot what you did. You thought you'd get away with it. Look at how soft his language is. He's sitting in a position of authority. They are in a state of utter desperation. They're asking for charity. They're asking for charity. فَتَصَدَّقْ عَلَيْنَا. They're asking for a handout. Look at how soft, how diplomatic, how empathetic he is. هل علمتم ما فعلتم بيوسف? No outburst. Hey, there is some story about Yusuf, your brother. What happened there? إذ أنتم جاهلون. When you were ignorant, when you didn't know better. Now, obviously, the bell starts ringing upstairs. They start putting two and two together. أَإِنَّكَ لَأَنْتَ يُوسُف? Hey, hold on. Now that you mention it, you seem to be like Yusuf. Is it you? Look at the response. I'm intentionally reciting the verses for you. The tone, the choice of words. أَإِنَّكَ لَأَنْتَ يُوسُف? قال أنا يوسف. Yes, I am Yusuf. وهذا أخي. This is my blood brother Benjamin. They were brothers from different mothers but the same father. Now look at the words. Wow, look at the words. قد من الله علينا. Now the penny drops, right? Now the penny drops. They down. He's up. They desperate. He's in authority. They the oppressors. He's the oppressed. If he decides to take vengeance, they the target. At that moment, what does he choose to tell them? Does he choose to tell them what difficulty they put him through? Does he choose to tell them what it pained him like to be separated from his father? Does he choose to tell them about being imprisoned? No. قَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا. Allah has been very kind to me. Allah has been very kind to me. Then he shares with them the recipe for success. And it's in the Quran, so it's a recipe for us to emulate. He says, listen, no matter what life throws at you, even if your own brothers drop you to the bottom of the well, here's the formula for success. إِنَّهُ مَن يَتَّقِ وَيَصْبِرْ. Two things. Have taqwa. Always keep Allah happy and be patient with whatever difficulty you have to go through. Persevere. Stay the course. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. When you have taqwa and you persevere, Allah won't let your efforts go to waste. That's my success. That's the recipe of my success. I don't take any credit. قَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا. I'm sitting on the throne because Allah has been kind to me. Why has Allah been kind to me? إِنَّهُ مَن يَتَّقِ وَيَصْبِرْ. And Allah says this repeated in the Quran. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اسْتَعِينُوا بِاللَّهِ. Seek assistance from Allah. وَاسْبِرُوا. Make sabr. وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِقَوْمِهِ اسْتَعِينُوا بِاللَّهِ وَاسْبِرُوا. That's the recipe for success. Now, the Quran doesn't tell us that the brother said, okay Yusuf, maaf kar jao. It's not there in the words of the Quran. After telling them that Allah has been kind to me, this has been the recipe of my success, he immediately proceeds to pardon them and tells them, take it easy, don't worry, don't stress. لا تثريب عليكم اليوم. You won't be held accountable for what you did. I've forgiven you. And not only have I forgiven you, يغفر الله لكم. I make dua that Allah must forgive you. This is at the core of the message of Surah Yusuf. You can't prosper as an individual. You can't prosper as a family. You can't prosper as a community. And you will never prosper as an ummah if you cannot have a big heart and forgive for the pleasure of Allah. Whether the opposite party appreciates it, whether they reciprocate it, whether they acknowledge it is a separate matter. Yusuf alayhi salam could have taken vengeance. Like Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam when he marched into Makkah with a 10,000 strong army. I was explaining after Fajr, he took the banner and the flag away from Sa'd radiallahu anhu because Sa'd radiallahu anhu said today is the day of vengeance. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said today is the day of mercy. Why? When you take revenge, even if you're entitled to, you get caught up in a side issue. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam had to liberate Makkah and he had to build an ummah. Yusuf alayhi salam had to save an entire nation from drought. Look at the bigger picture, not at your personal preference. Your ego is telling you revenge. What does the ummah need? What does the family need? What does the community need? What does the congregation need? Does it need for you to take revenge or does it need for you to forgive? And that's what distinguishes the average from the great. Great people have big hearts. Of course Yusuf alayhi salam was hurt. Of course he went through difficulty. Of course he suffered as a human being. But he understood there's a bigger picture here. There's a greater mission. لا تثريب عليكم اليوم. Don't worry. It's over. Chapter closed. And he was so sincere, يغفر الله لكم. I make dua to Allah to forgive you. You know, I always say this. I share with you a story very quickly. Sometimes people feel it's my haqq, so I will fight for it, and that's it. You're entitled to do that. But I have a question, to what end? So I'll tell you quickly two stories. I have a friend back home, got a good business, mashallah, saved up some money, and one day he told me, Moulana, make dua. I've got some friends, I've invested my savings with them, I want to do, hopefully I'll have a bit of a nest egg. Then I can retire from the business and I can live off that proceeds. So like a barakah. After a while I meet him, the man is depressed, he's broken, he's raging. What happened? They ate my money. People I trusted, Muslims, they ate my money. Gone, my whole life savings, gone. So I said to him, what are you going to do? So I'm going to court. Hire the best lawyers. Okay, Allah make it easy. I meet him after a while. I say, what's happening with your court case? He say, I withdrew the case. So why? Your life savings. I say, well, I know what. Every day I was going to my business, which was flourishing, but I wasn't concentrating on my business because my mind is in the case. I'm going to home, I'm going to my house, my loving wife is there, she's talking to me, I'm snapping back at her because my mind is on the case. My children want to play with me, I'm irritable with them because my mind is on the case. Their lawyers are sending documents full of lies, and it's making me work up now. How can they talk like this? What kind of Muslims are they lying? See, I came to a point and I said, in pursuing what is my haqq, my life savings, I'm losing what I have, my business and my family. Let it go for the pleasure of Allah. I can tell you, Allah has given that brother much more than what he has lost. Much more than what he has lost. It's not for me to tell you what to fight for and what not to fight for. It's for me to tell you, ask yourself, to what end? And for how long? So on Thursday nights in our masjid, we have a little of a zikr program. And I give a short nasiyah. So one day I was saying this, that you know what, in life, let go. Just let go. It's not worth the tension, it's not worth the stress, it's not worth the aggravation. And I gave one example. I said, see, you know when you go for Umrah, now you have to go on Friday, early to the Haram. If you're not in by 9 o'clock, 9:30, you're not going to get chance. Right? You're still outside. Now you come early, you put your musalla, you got your water, you put your rumal. 11:30, you decide to go and put the Quran Sharif back on the shelf. one Hazratji who came in at 25 plus 11 takes your spot. Now it's your heart, now. You woke up early, you showered early, you came early, you put your musalla, and he just sits like this. You want to hear nothing. He pretends like he can't understand you. Happens. Or if you try to reason with him, he tell you, this is not your father's house, there's no time share here. You can't come book a spot. You went to get some zamzam, you went to go and get the Quran from the shelf. Hard luck for you. Now, what do? And I said, I've seen situations like this. You smile, go sit on the tiles, never mind. Go sit on the marble. Because what's going to happen? You're going to fight with him. He's going to fight back with you. You're going to raise your voice. He's going to raise your voice. You're going to get so angry that even if you get your spot back, you're not going to enjoy your Jummah Salah. Right? So one Baji was in the majlis shaking his head. Like this one. No, man, I don't agree with you. So I told him, Ji, what's your view? He said, you must fight for your heart. Otherwise people will take advantage of you. So I said, okay. He said, because what if there's no place? What if it happens something? Everything's full. I came early. And then the more you allow it, if I must go sit, that same fellow will come the next Friday and do it to somebody else. I told him, right, you're right. But to what end? So I told him, you fight with him. Once I saw the man who was sitting there, right? Somebody else came to his spot. Then he started arguing. The guard came through, both of them out. Because you don't understand his language, you don't understand your language, he just see you making noise, out. Now you're not going to argue with the guard because you'll end up in jail. So what did you achieve? So he told me, no, what if there's no place? I said, look, if there's no place, then I'll go out for today. I'll come sit right in front of you. He won't be able to make Urdu and Sajda. And I'll sit with a smile. So the point I was making to him, okay, it's your heart to fight, but to how long are you going to fight? And to what end? So sometimes people get upset, they say, what Moulana is saying? My varso, my haq, I must fight. Nobody say don't. But to what end? You're going to fight for the next 30 years, spend more money in lawyers' fees than the money you're actually fighting for, and more than that, your peace of mind is gone. So it's your decision to make. I mean, no one can force you to forgo what is rightfully yours. But we can say, look at the spirit of Yusuf alayhi salam. Look at the spirit of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That for my own peace of mind, they say, psychologists say, when you forgive someone, you liberate yourself. You unshackle yourself. Otherwise, you're constantly burdened by the baggage of the resentment that you're carrying towards that person. Then, that's psychologically the benefit. On top of it, when you forgive someone, whether that person appreciates or not is a different matter. Allah will give you more in reward than what you would have got if you claimed from that person what was your right to claim on the day of Qiyamah. So if you stole 1,000 pounds from me, and I don't forgive you, I'll get 1,000 nekis. But if I forgive you, Allah will give me 10,000 nekis. Where's the advantage? Where's the advantage? That's the lesson. So I've been saying to brothers, you cry about the oppression and occupation and all of that. And we're saying unity, 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 unity. But we can't forgive each other. We're standing in the same stuff in the masjid, we're not talking. We're blood brothers, we're not talking. We're neighbors, we're not talking. We used to be friends for years, now we're not talking. So we don't want to mend the fences here. We don't want to build breaches here, down ground level. But no, they on top, they must unite. And because they're not uniting, the ummah is in a mess. That's hypocrisy. That's hypocrisy. These are the lessons that we need to take from the story of Yusuf. One more and I conclude. Now his father comes, وَرَفَعَ أَبَوَيْهِ عَلَى الْعَرْشِ وَخَرُّوا لَهُ سُجَّدًا وَقَالَ يَا أَبَتِ. Look at the humility, man. You see, مَنْ تَوَاضَعَ لِلَّهِ رَفَعَهُ اللَّهِ. مَنْ تَوَاضَعَ لِلَّهِ رَفَعَهُ اللَّهِ. If you look at the words of the Isra and Mi'raj, Allah says, Subhana alladhi asra bi'abdihi. Allah took his servant by night to the seven heavens and beyond. Allah uses the word abd. He doesn't say, I took Muhammad, or I took Ahmad, or I took my Nabi, or I took my Rasul. So the Mufassir unpack and say, why does Allah use the word abd in this particular place? It's because when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was asked, what title do you like? What title do you prefer? He didn't say, I prefer Habibullah, I prefer Rasulullah, I prefer Nabiyullah, I prefer Imam al-Muttaqin. He said, I prefer to be known as an abd, the servant of Allah. So he showed humility. Man tawada'a lillah. When you are humble for the pleasure of Allah, rafa'ahu Allah. Allah took him to the Sidratul Muntaha and beyond. Look at the humility of Yusuf alayhi salam. When he meets his father, Dad, check me, man. I did well, even though you were not around. Even though these fellows here plotted and planned against me. Ya abati hada ta'weelu ru'yaya min qabl. Dad, you were right. You told me when we interpreted my dream that this was what happened. He's praising his father. Then he attributes everything to Allah. قَدْ جَعَلَهَا رَبِّي حَقًّا. Allah made it a reality. Now look at the words. Wow. وَقَدْ أَحْسَنَ بِي. Allah favored me. إِذْ أَخْرَجَنِي مِنَ السِّجْنِ. When Allah took me out of prison. Not that, you know why? I have the ability to interpret dreams. That's how I got out of prison. I interpreted that fellow's dream, then he told the king, and I interpreted the king's dream. That's how I got here. No. Nothing you attribute to myself. Allah took me out of prison by Allah's grace. And why did I end up in prison then? من بعد أن نزغ الشيطان بيني وبين إخوتي. That shaitan came between me and my brothers and it caused a bit of a problem, which resulted in me ending up in jail. But it's okay, Allah released me from jail. It's okay, Allah released me from jail. And then look at his dua at the end of Surah Yusuf. رَبِّ قَدْ آتَيْتَنِي مِنَ الْمُلْكِ. Allah, you've given me kingdom. وَعَلَّمْتَنِي مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. And you have taught me how to interpret the dreams. But I'm nobody. فَاطِرَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. The creator of the heavens and earth is you, Allah. أَنْتَ وَلِيِّي. You are my friend. فِي الدُّنْيَا, in this world, وَالْآخِرَةِ, in the akhirah. Look at the humility of Yusuf alayhi salam. He's a Nabi, son of a Nabi, grandson of a Nabi, great-grandson of a Nabi. But he's saying, oh Allah, tawaffani muslima. Let me die as a Muslim. وَأَلْحَقْنِي بِالصَّالِحِينَ. And join me with the pious. He's not saying, I'm the pious. Say, join me with the pious in the year after. So these are the lessons, and may Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala enable us to internalize them, imbibe them, and practice upon them. Wa sallallahu wa sallam.